Okay, so welcome to Savitribai Phule Resource Center. This is, one of the important lecture in our abroad education series by Savitribai Phule's School of International Studies. So today we are going to talk about uh, studying economics at the UK University, and we have Arijit Dash with us. Before the introduction of the guest, I would like to first introduce what is SRC. That I welcome you at SRC, and uh, this short presentation is about to contribute to support SRC, what we work and how we work. So SRC is not an NGO; it's a people's movement. It's Ambedkarite movement where we support marginalized community students to get into higher education, abroad education, and the many more opportunities. So that because most of the marginalized communities live, they are landless communities. Many of them are bonded laborers, sugarcane workers, and laboring class, and education is the only solution for a long run upliftment, because everything can be snatched, but you must have listened that dialogue from the one of the movie where everything can be snatched, but your skill, your abilities cannot be snatched, and that's what we believe. So many of you must have contributed to SRC earlier, or you may choose to contribute to SRC. A few months back we started from Nagpur here, and now we are into this district and we are spreading across Maharashtra. So it was just a single room that we started with, and now we have Nagpur, Mumbai, Pune, Nashik, Chandrapur, Gadchiroli, Gondia, Bhandara centers. Most importantly, these spaces are people spaces. They are not big buildings, big campuses. Rather, these buildings are people spaces, tiny rooms in the bastis, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe bastis, community halls in the viharas, villages, the Buddha viharas that are turned into educational places where people sit, students sit and study together. And we provide them a free of cost mentorship program, educational resources, digital resources, every form of mentorship that they need, even financially if they need any support, we provide them. Our only vision is to support students throughout their educational journey, so that they can cross that threshold where again they will not come back to they will not be forced to live in the poverty and live in the ignorance. That's the vision. And the road ahead is basically we are preparing uh, ourselves to build these centers into every district of Maharashtra and then across India, especially in those areas where education has not reached. It's a people's movement, so we don't get government funding, neither we get corporate funding, because again corporate funding demands certain way of working like an NGO. You should not use this, you should not use those photos, you should not use those symbols, and that's what we are registered to do that, and that's why we are not NGO in a sense. We are people's movement. um, we are Ambedkarite people's movement as a educational movement. Why we exist? Because we believe that our children, especially marginalized community children, deserve more than survival. They deserve dignity, opportunity, and the future. And we largely work with the SC, ST, OBC, nomadic tribe, Muslim minorities, and all those who are historically excluded communities. You can stand with us. You can support. There is a system called as a monthly contributors. We call it as a friends of SRC. You can be a monthly contributor with 100 rupees, 200 rupees, 500 rupees, as much as you can contribute to SRC. To contribute, we have this one of our organization called as Reva Mehta Foundation, where SRCs work under Reva Mehta Foundation. So you can go and search just Reva Mehta Foundation. You will find this, and on the donate now button, you will get this. And once you click into this mark monthly donation, you will be able to set up the auto pay. Here is a scanner. You can use that also. Yes. So be friends of SRC. Thank you. And I would like to introduce now our guest, Arijit Bhai. Arijit Das is a PhD researcher in development economics at University of Cambridge, UK. He holds economics degree from Queen's Mary University of London and London School of Economics as well. Professionally, he has been working with NITI Aayog, Indian Institute of Public Administration, and the social investment business in the UK as a big profile. And uh, currently he is pursuing his development economics at the University of Cambridge. I really want to thank you, Arijit Bhai, for doing this, and again apologies for the yesterday's inconvenience. And yeah, over to you, Arijit Bhai.
Thank you so much, Prashant bhai, for this. And I mean, first of all, when I came across the SRC, I was like really, I was taken aback by the stuff that you people have been doing, and it's very rare these days that you across such organizations who work for the especially the youth, and changing the educational landscape in India, and how to kind of push people uh, who aren't, I would say, like, because I don't like to use the words, less deprived and stuff like that, but who have not been shown those windows of opportunities in India. So I think you guys are really doing a lot of, like, good things on that stuff. Yeah, so thank you for this. And I mean, as I was mentioning, I mean, uh, really good stuff by you, Prashant bhai, leading from the front. And I just hope that a lot of people, a lot of young people especially, who are trying to kind of pursue education abroad, or any other institutes which they feel kind of would open windows of opportunities for them, are able to kind of leverage whatever stuff SRC is doing. And so yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, my many congratulations on this initiative. And so the way I would like, want to go about this session is kind of to just have kind of some kind of a interaction with everyone who has joined, and in some sense kind of I mean, help you guys have some idea as to how applications are furnished. How, for example, I mean, in a way, I'd like to share my experience, when I was, say, applying to all these institutions. And experiences are obviously very much, it's very much like specific to individuals. But if my experience can kind of help you guys, everyone, who is willing to furnish an application next admission cycle, or in the coming years, would just kind of have some ideas, how to go about it. And I'm open to, of course, like, you can write to me in my emails, or reach out to me. I'm happy to share all the details. So I'll just run you through some slides which I have prepared, kind of to give you some context about how the application process is, how kind of the way I wrote my statement of purpose, what I felt kind of helped me get some offers. Or even in this particular PhD application, we have the interview cycle. So how's the process like, and how do you cold email to professors, and all those stuff. So I just like to you know um, run you through some slides. So, and I'm obviously happy to take questions. I'm okay even to take questions in the middle of the presentation, or also afterwards, whatever like suits you guys. So feel free to, like, just stop me whenever you want to. And if you want me to explain something in the middle of the presentation also, I'm happy to do that. So I mean, I can start with the first slide. So just to kind of give you a brief introduction about myself, of course, beyond what just adding to what Prashant Bhai was also mentioning. So my undergraduate formation actually took place in St. Xavier's College, which was in Calcutta. So we had a 3-year undergraduate degree. I mean, I spent my 3-year undergraduate years in Calcutta, where basically kind of I was introduced to this to the foundations of economics. So it was a kind of a very rigorous program. And we were kind of taught I mean, all kind of facets of economics. If you see, like, macro, micro, development. And it was there actually where I found my particular interest in economics. Because, as I think Prashant Bhai was also mentioning somewhere, I heard him speak somewhere that economics or law, all these subjects are pretty broad. So I think one advantage, or one, I think, edge that we all can have when we are pursuing our undergraduate degrees, or say postgraduate degrees, is to kind of find our focus area. So because if you say that economics as a subject excites me, it's like very generic. So you have to come down to the area which excites you. So it can be in economics, mathematical modelings. It can be development economics. I mean, my calling was development economics because of reasons like, I found development economics to be very practical in its approach. Like, you can frame policies, you can understand where development is, where development as a notion is, for example, happening in a region, not happening in a region. And so you can devise policies, you can have data, you can run analysis, and then you can spot the gaps. So it is a combination of mathematics also. Like, economics as a subject is like pretty much the language of economics is mathematics. But then I didn't what didn't excite me was all these modeling stuff that we were taught, or we can, I mean, a lot of people are also engaging in that. I mean, so for me it was more of, I wanted to look things from an empirical perspective, and development economics has a lot of empirical applications to it. So for me, I think that was one important focus area which I found my calling in St. Xavier's. And I think one takeaway from my years at St. Xavier's, and I mean, of course, like even everyone who is pursuing the undergraduate, among the audience who has joined in, is that you don't really set out things so clearly during your initial university years, but then you have to be always very open. You have to kind of take these small initiatives. So what I did was, even during my, I mean, at the end of my first year, I was like, I needed to write something. I always like loved writing. So you have a thought in your mind, you kind of want to translate that thought into pen and paper. So what I did was, starting from regional newspapers. So for example, I come from the state of Odisha. So we had a lot of, like, regional newspapers, editorial sections there. So I used to, like, just randomly write stuff on a particular economic issue or a political issue, for example. And then I used to email, the editorial people. And it's not like in the initial emails you'll receive a reply, because obviously they are, like, busy people. They have a lot of other, people writing to them, who of course are way above in experience and stature than what we are. But then that shouldn't be kind of a stop, or that shouldn't stop you from kind of writing to them, and allowing your writing skills to develop. So developing your writing skills, presenting small papers, like, obviously it's your undergraduate, you're pursuing your undergraduate degrees. No one expects you to come up with, like, really path breaking stuff. But then just that initiative, kind of, to just present stuff. I mean, even if you get rejected, it's fine. I mean, if paper gets rejected, your editorials are like, you receive a very, not a very positive reply. But then you'll feel you'll start to get the benefits of it, because I used to write a lot, and so few of my write ups were like not up to the mark. Then I thought, okay, so I'm not writing the way, for example, an editorial, a kind of an opinion piece is kind of, written. So you read up stuff, so that actually, so while writing you get feedbacks that kind of enhances your reading habits also. So what I'm trying to say is, these are very formative years while you're pursuing your undergraduate degrees. So make the best use out of the universities. So writing is something I really encourage in any social science subject that anyone is interested to pursue. So that's something I did, and my experience, I got few stuff published in Express. They were like very small editorials, but then those kind of gave me that confidence, gave me that, that push, that of course, like, I was able to write something. And that kind of got, I built up on that, and then, presented papers in Presidency College, for example. There was these economic summits that happens. So you need to always keep an eye on all these inter-colleges, intra-colleges events. So you have universities in Delhi, you have universities, in Calcutta. So they kind of invite people, students from across other universities. So go there and participate. It can be a debating stuff. It can be a policy, a policy game or something like that. It can be paper presentations. So those are stuff would be my kind of key takeaways from those undergraduate years, which kind of helped me. And post that, obviously, depends on whether you want to pursue a master's right after that. For me, it was like, I went on to pursue my master's at Queen Mary, which was an MSc economics degree, and then a development economics degree at LSE also subsequently. And these are kind of, years that you would want to develop, networks. You would want to build on your mentorship stuff. You would also at the same time kind of develop your research interests. So during our undergraduate degrees, your research interests, narrows down to one a facet of economics. Say for me, it was development economics. But again, development economics is also very broad. So you need to kind of keep narrowing down your research interest. At the same time, also, be open to, other stuff, because it's again a very interdisciplinary subject. So what I mean to say is, you keep on developing your research interest, as well as, narrowing it down, but at the same time also making it very focused, because I think that's where ultimately you will develop that clarity in your mind that, this is something which I want to research about. Inequality is something I want to research about, or economics of education is something I want to develop my interests. Institutional economics, for example, is right now in the center state. So how institutions kind of are having impact on economic growth. So all these things, you just keep building on that. And then ultimately, when I arrived at that position that, I know where my research is, for me, I mean, again, it's very individual specific. I thought right after my master's, I was not really keen on taking up a PhD, because I felt some ground experience, working with organizations, handling big data. For example, in economics, you have all these, increased focus now on big data. You run big analysis. So if you don't know how to use data, it probably PhD would be very tough for you. So for me, I took a step back. I went back to work at NITI Aayog. I presented stuff there. I worked with very senior colleagues, policy people around, and then I came back to UK. I worked at the social investment, this business groups which were kind of doing a lot of stuff on impact investing. So my focus was on economic analysis of things. Again, building up on my skills on data analysis and stuff. So that's something also, and one advice I'd like to give to you. Obviously, there are, again, as I keep on mentioning, it's very individual specific. Like, what really, like, falls, or fits perfect to your stuff, you should obviously do that. But then the experiences and stuff which I have had, I think these kind of, having your degrees, but at the same time also making sure that you have some practical experience. I think those things also kind of, really matters. So then, when I was at the stage of kind of furnishing a PhD application, that's where I decided that, okay, this is the year I want to, like, stop working, and I just want to pursue my PhD and, complete my research degree. So that's what kind of, the process has been for me. And one key insight which I mentioned in the slide at the last point is that every step in your life, like whatever you do, like in this case, for example, every applications that I've furnished, it's like built on the previous one. So, it's everything is very linked. So when you ultimately, decide that, okay, master's degree is something I want to do, that's the end of it, I want to go back and work, you would always feel at the end of it that one was built on the other. So, your past experiences, your past applications are always like one step up. So, and of course there is, like, no substitute to, like, hard work and putting those, hard hours. And at the same time, like, you feel that you have a more clearer purpose, like, you have a clear goal, you know what you want to do. And it's okay, like, to be confused at times, because if you ask any of my PhD colleagues now at Cambridge, or some of them who are in Oxford, they'll be also like, we don't really know what exactly how my ultimate thesis would turn out to be. So it's absolutely fine that if you're confused, you're trying to figure things out, but keep on thinking. That's what my suggestion would be. Uh, and if I just move to the next slide, so yeah. I mean, question always comes up whenever you are trying to furnish any applications, like, be it before your master's degrees, for your research degrees, is like, where you want to apply. So where and when exactly, what is the time that you're looking at? That's, I think, one very basic question to start with. So UK, for example, I feel the institutions that UK has. I mean, I can be a bit biased because I have not really. I mean, if anyone is trying to apply to the US institutes and stuff, I mean, I probably would not have much idea, because I have had all my degrees and applications that I furnished has been very specific to UK, because I was pretty clear that the institutions and the global community that UK has. I mean, not to compare it with US, because obviously they might be having the same global exchange of knowledge and stuff. But the perspective of UK is that it's kind of all these world leading research institutions have thrived in UK for very long. So you look at the the years that institutions have been established. So, for example, Cambridge, I didn't know when I was applying. Cambridge as an institute is actually established in the year 1209. So that's like that old, and that the fact that they have survived this year, I mean, these many years, is because there must be some good reason about it. I mean, they thrive on, exchange of knowledge, cultural exchange of knowledge, your views on politics, your views on economic issues, social issues, and these institutes are very accepting in that case, and it's very holistic. It's very inclusive. So I think that's what universities in UK kind of excited me when I was exploring options to apply after my bachelor's degrees. Secondly, I think that is very, I mean, the global networks point which I mentioned, I think that's very that's obviously very applicable to US as well. But these are the places actually, or these are the universities that you'll meet your peer groups, like, who come from all parts of the world. So it can be the east, the west, and they can be from Asia, from Europe, from African countries, or American countries. So it's like that cultural kind of engagements that you have. I think that is also quite unique to universities in UK. And not only, like, just to have interactions with them, but then at the process of completing your degrees, you'll find that you have forged lifelong connections, be professional, personal. You develop friendships, you develop mentorships for life. So these are, again, some of the benefits, I would say, of applying to these UK universities. And in terms of career and advancements also, like, it kind of opens windows, opportunities. You want to work at organizations from World Bank, or work with specific governments. You to come back India, and you also have the tag that you are studying from, say, a college in London, which is like, uh, they like to remarkable stuff on policies and stuff, and they have these alumni networks. So you can always leverage, even if you want to stay back there, work at regional development organizations, or even if you want to come back to India. I think you'll always stand an edge when you want to start working. So I think these are some of the reasons which I feel are very important for you to keep in mind while applying to any universities across the globe. Why universities, that I'm looking at, matters. So do a bit of research, like, open universities websites whenever you get time from your hectic university schedules. Just kind of make it a bit of a leisure activity if you're starting our undergraduate degrees now. So maybe like opening up profiles of people, connecting with them. I think those gives you very, very initial kind of initial understanding. So that is something which I really encourage. And then moving on to the entire application process, I think this kind of session is mostly focused on that. But I just wanted to give you a perspective of why UK universities are doing what they are doing, and why they kind of maintain that standards, which is very important for you to keep in mind. So every application process, I think, which many of you would know, uh, contains very specific stuff that you want to look at before you begin drafting your application. Is that the most important, I think, is the statement of purpose, or what you call the personal statement, that kind of defines you in a way. Because, for example, when the application or the admissions committee, they sit together and they kind of take a call that why the student kind of assess you basically in some sense. They don't really get to interact with you initially, right? When they're kind of shortlisting you. Especially, I'm talking about the master's application process. So in what way you can present yourself, and that the only way of doing that is via your personal statement. So this is, I think, one of the most important aspect of any application, which kind of I'll share some snapshots of my application or my personal statement, which might kind of give you some small help. It was not I wouldn't say that my statement was like the best of all, but then the most important thing which I want to stress is you need to start it early, because it goes through multiple iterations. Like, you draft something today, you start drafting, for example, today, but then at the end of it, you'd feel like it has gone through multiple changes. It can be 20, 25 drafts. So I think that's very important, like, to start early, to if you have like a good group of people around you who kind of give you feedback. It can be your teachers, it can be your colleagues, it can be your friends, it can be family. Then you should just share these statements and stuff that you write. I think that is quite helpful at the end of it. You feel you listen to a lot of feedbacks. Never necessarily go with one particular point of view, because everyone has their point of view, but ultimately what you feel you can take away from that feedback, and how best you feel you can integrate that in your statement. Just take all those feedback, note it down, and kind of integrate everything together. So I think what I'm trying to stress here is starting early, because even though 500 or 1000 words might seem to you at the onset that you can do it over a week, it's never the case. I mean, for me, it was never the case, because if you want to perfect any kind of statement, or any kind of write ups you are writing, I think if you want to elevate it to some level of say some standards, then you need to kind of start early, rework on it, integrate feedbacks, as I mentioned. So that's, I think, one part of the application, which is the statement of purpose. Secondly, I think all these, a bit of a, housekeeping stuff, I would say, is like, getting your academic transcripts ready while you have your applications, this process starting off. So that is one key part about it. But I think the second most important, I would say, I think I should have got the recommendation letter on the second part, because I think that's the second most important. So what is recommendation letter? So it's basically like when you're pursuing an undergraduate degree, or say, for example, you're doing a master's now, you know who can recommend you, you know who can speak about you, and it's the professors, it's your teachers, starting from university level. You have done bachelor's, you have written some, you have, say, for example, dissertation is a part of your degree. Then you have worked on your dissertation, you must have been allotted a supervisor who has kind of helped you, given you feedback on your dissertation. So these are the professors, or network of people who know your work immediately. It can't be someone you have interned with, for example, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. If you have obviously done a internship for, say, good 5 months or 4 months, then obviously the person who has worked, who has delegated you work, can be a good point of writing your reference. But then what these universities refer to by recommendation letters are mostly these university professors. And mostly some applications do have this thing that they need to write from university email address and stuff. But don't worry, that's not very important, because uh, you can always reach out to the application team, that my college, for example, my supervisor has got no access to university emails, because not every university is in India. Because I remember, when I was kind of draft I mean when my professors at St. Xavier's were drafting these recommendation letters, so back then they didn't have any university email. I'm talking about 2017, 18, and obviously these are very experienced people. They have like they are not that tech savvy, so they would prefer using their personal email address. So that's absolutely fine. The applications team would always consider these options. So, but what is important is you kind of make sure that whatever they are writing about you kind of speaks the unique qualities that you possess. Explain the things. Never shy away from saying that I was a part, for example, of a conference, for example, that our college was organizing. I was a part of, or I was heading the public relations team. I was heading the media team. So any stuff that you have done, which you feel is unique to you, then never shy away from mentioning that. It can be via your personal statement, it can be via your recommendation letter. So these are some stuff you should really have handy. So one is the statement of purpose. You should really like to start early, and second is these recommendation letters. You really need to have a conversation with your professors, your immediate supervisor, that this is my plan. I'm planning to apply, say, in 2027 or 2028 to these universities. So can we just start? Can you just give your, first of all, give your acceptance that you're going to kind of recommend me, and secondly, we can slowly start to kind of draft something together. Because mostly, I think, I can speak for the university. I did my undergraduate at St. Xavier's College. They were like, the professors would write your first draft, but then they would encourage you to come to their office have a chat with them, and if you and they wanted our feedback, they know what extra stuff would you like me to write about you. So they were very open in that case. So even your supervisors would be like, wanting to know from you that is there any additional stuff that you would want us to write. So you can always explain all these things properly, that professor, this is something I would like to integrate. If you can do that, I'll be really obliged and stuff. So you should always have that conversation very very early, because for example, when you're in your final year, if you have this conversation, like you have 3 months to wrap up your stuff, and you go to a professor, I mean, he or she would be like, why have you come to me like so late? You should have come to me like 6 7 months before, because that shows your sincerity, and that shows your focus, that you want to start something really early. So make sure you kind of forge these connections with your supervisors really early if you're planning like to apply anywhere. And I think third most important aspect is the CV, the resume that you prepare, because every application requires you to concise your educational background, your professional background, and your skills and stuff, your any kind of academic excellence that you have obtained, kind of to just make sure it is within 1 to 2 page. So not many university would really encourage you to kind of have a 3 4 long CV. And of course, we should be very humble at some point of time, that by I mean, we are like, while we're pursuing our undergraduate degrees or master degrees, we would not have something to show in 4 5 pages. So you should not be going so over the board. You should have like very concise stuff, that this is what I've done. These are my professional experiences. It can be like some internships here, which you feel have significantly added to your skill set. So mention those things in your CV, but make it very concise, because keeping it concise is really important. And most importantly, mention also about the publications. It can be, as I mentioned, about any newspaper articles you have written. You have contributed to some opinion pieces in some newspapers, so mention that. And then obviously, again, these are some of the very basic things you need to adhere to, which are the English language tests. So, for example, IELTS or TOEFL. Given that of course, English is not our first language, so you need to prove your English proficiency skills. And the way the university goes about, I mean, the universities in UK go about things are, they kind of encourage you to take some IELTS tests and stuff. And even I think, for example, Cambridge has got its own, English taking, this tests that they run. So if you feel like, you would not like to take the IELTS exam, you can always reach out to the universities that, which are the standard stuff I need to take, and they'll really help out. So, but I assume that across all universities, I may be generalizing this, but mostly IELTS is kind of the benchmark test that you have while you apply to UK universities, and you need to like aim for a particular band score. So I mean by that is, it can be for Cambridge, for example, it's like a minimum of 7.5 out of 10 that you need to score. So again, every university must be having its own kind of scores that they're wanting to look at, but you need to like score a minimum stuff to just tick that box. So these are stuff which is like mostly just ticking the box. And for economics especially, I mean, given the competitive situation in every social science, for example, it's not just confined to economics, again I would say, but there are some graduate record exams. So this GRE exam is basically a mix of a quant and English kind of a test that mostly universities in US, for example, keeps it very binding. But even UK has got its own, for every programs they have, that GRE is something which is mandatory. So that's something you need to like keep in mind. Or for example, if you're wanting to pursue management, then GMAT, of course, you must have heard about. But the broad thing is, there are very discipline specific tests or boxes that you need to tick as far as the subject specific exams are concerned. So these are some of the important things that I just wanted to show you guys, because that's what I kind of when I was drafting my applications, I found these are the very important facets of any applications. So then moving forward, yeah, so this is basically what is the most important stuff, which is basically the statement of purpose. So as I think the acronym even mentions that it is like stating what your purpose of doing this degree is all about. So you want to tell a story. you want to demonstrate, where your passion lies in this particular field, and you have to basically explain at the end of it that why you feel you are a perfect fit for this program. So the way I went about it, and of course it was not from the word go, because you end up reading a lot of uh, SOPs that are there for open access. So a lot of like alumni from Oxford, LSE, Cambridge, or universities across UK, UCL, and stuff. What they have done is they have kind of given access to their personalized statements, so you can obviously find them while you do your bit of research. And the way I kind of integrated everything together, and kind of I wanted to make my application unique, is basically trying to kind of start off with a personal narrative. So rather than saying that my research interest in this, and just going very straightforward into it, you'd like to kind of build a story, tell a bit about yourself, tell a bit about where you started from, and what is that one incident which kind of opened your horizons, or kind of made you question that, okay, this is a problem which I see, and how can I solve it, for example. And I'll show you, like, how I drafted one of my master's applications, and that would give you some sense of what I'm talking about. But basically, it's kind of trying to build a personal narrative. You kind of are defining yourself, but not only that, you're trying to kind of understand, or you kind of trying to convey to the admissions team that this is a particular situation which kind of made me sit back and think, this is a major problem, and can I play some role in solving it. It can't be that that was one incident which kind of just made you think that, okay, this is something which has not been done by anyone. I'm not telling you that to I mean telling you to convey that, but it's like, just frame a story, and it has to be obviously true that you have faced it. But then mentioning these things actually kind of makes your application very unique from the rest. So always important that storyline is a bit important. And of course, when you kind of go about in drafting your statement of purpose, defining your academic goals, as I mentioned, I mean, have that clear focus. It's not that just because economics uh, is a kind of a very important, of course, a subject, and it's kind of everyone is trying to pursue economics at the moment. So I'll say economics is a study, I'm very passionate about it. It's a very generic statement to make, rather than what specifics of economics is something that excites you. So that is something, again, which you should have. If you're pursuing a postgraduate degree now, you should have, by the way, by this time, got a sense of which aspect of it really excites you. Or if you're just starting off your undergraduate degree, by the end of it, you should figure it out, that which aspect of this subject is important to me. And then obviously, if you're drafting a PhD application, this research interest is kind of very specific to PhD application. Of course, a lot of people also end up defining the research interests in your master's application, but it's not that mandatory to do that. But it's obviously, it gives you an edge if you kind of have a research interest already ready when you're drafting your master's applications. But for PhD, this point of research interest is non-negotiable. Like, you have to have your own research question, even if it can be very broad at the moment, because research question for you to develop, I think, it happens at the end of your first year in your PhD. So they're not wanting you to kind of come up with a very, very well defined research problem, but you should, in a very layman term, should be able to explain what your research interest is. It can be worded in 2-3 sentences. That's absolutely fine. But again, you need to have that interest in mind, and you're able to explain it in your statement of purpose. And then, as I mentioned before, it's kind of why you feel this particular university is kind of you are a clear fit to that university. So why this program, why this university? You should have done your fair bit of research while you're kind of shortlisting universities. You're kind of having this conversation that this is something which these are the set of universities I need to apply, and then secondly, going about which are the programs you need to apply. So your programs, your degrees must align with your objectives, in what you want to achieve in your future professional career. So I think that's where this alignment thing is very important. And then at the end of it, you should know that what is the what is it that you are ultimately aspiring to be, and the future vision about yourself. I think that that's also kind of really important to state. It can be a concluding paragraph, it can be somewhere in the introductory paragraph. So I think it depends, like, where you want to mention it. But these are some aspects I feel in an SOP which is very, very important. uh, and then if I move forward, I mean, I just wanted to kind of convey everyone that what are basically the golden rules while you start drafting your statement of purpose, because remember, we are still talking about the statement of purpose here. So as I mentioned, in this age of artificial intelligence, I mean, uh, one thing again, it can be just to kind of get off the topic a bit, but artificial intelligence by the term itself states that it's artificial. So you can't rely on artificial intelligence wholeheartedly to kind of draft your statement of purpose for you, because it will never speak who you are, because it's ultimately artificial. So you have to put in your personalized efforts to it, your personal efforts to it. You have to personalize your SOP. You have to make it read as if it is you who is conveying that to the application committee. So as they read, they should feel you are whispering the SOP in their ears. So it's kind of, it has to be very focused. It has to be you, and it can't be anyone else writing it for you. I mean, I, for example, had a feedback group that I had my friends, I had my family, I had my professors who kind of just give some inputs and stuff, but those were like just inputs at the end of it. So once you have your focus, you should be able to translate that into writing. So in a way, I also feel that the way the admissions committee go about these things is basically, the statement is a way to kind of test your writing skills also. Like, it has to kind of mean something to them, that you're able to translate what you think into a sentence or into a couple of paragraphs. So I think you have to be very authentic. So in this age of AI, or chat GPT and stuff, I mean, and always remember this, that universities are very, very kind of smart. I mean, if AI has picked up, even to cross check or validate that whether you have used AI, remember, they also have a lot of softwares to check that. So you have to be very, very clear on this, that it has to be very authentic. Yeah. So as I was mentioning, like, these are some of stuff. So basically, the whole takeaway from this is, you have to be very authentic in your stuff. You have to tell a story, connect your past experiences, and be very specific. As I mentioned here, like, don't just say that I love research, or like I love economics, for example, as a subject. You have to, like, make it very focused, make it very, very, very personal. You have to mention what is that unique stuff that excites you about the subject. So you're fascinated about spatial inequality or emerging markets. You're fascinated about development stuff. Or for me, for example, it was, this is my whole research question, which I'm still trying to refine as I go about my PhDs. How infrastructure, for example, access to it shapes regional developmental outcomes. So in a way, you have to be very focused, but the degree of focus depends on which application you're furnishing. So for a master's, it can be a bit very broad. For a PhD, it has to be very focused. So that's some of the golden rules which I feel you should always remember. For a typical structure, actually, of a statement of purpose, I mean, it would be more interesting if I show you the next particular slide. But yeah, the basic stuff is, in the first paragraph, you kind of explain about this moment. As I was mentioning to you, that this particular story, that which was that particular few days of your life. Or for example, I mean, I just mentioned an example here, which is what I mentioned in my introductory part of my CV, is that this moment, that as a part of my undergraduate degree, we were asked to do some field work. For example, in my dissertation, during my undergraduate stuff, I integrated some qualitative research work in my dissertation. So this particular village visit that I had to the rural part of Odisha, in that, it was for the first hand, where I kind of in a practical reality, this is something I saw firsthand, that how lack of roads isolated farmers from markets, and how infrastructure bottlenecks play a role in kind of producing suboptimal economic outcomes. I just don't want to be very technical in there, but this should just give you a broad idea as to which is that one particular moment that sparked your interest. I think that should be the introductory, paragraph of your SOP. And then as you go about it, it can be explaining your academic journey, your coursework, your projects, your research, your conferences, or attending a paper presentation, submit. So yeah, you kind of have to kind of your SOP should be in a way speaking about your intellectual growth, and in a way it should also speak about your research passion. So be specific in your questions you're wanting to ask. You see that, for example, today we have in economics, say, inequality, like it has been a researched area for the last 25, 30 years, for example. So you have to read that literature if you want to pose any research question. So to concise all that has happened in the 25 years is obviously not practically possible for any master students or undergraduate students, but you need to just focus on that gap, because you know that there is a particular stream of literature which has done a lot of work on spatial inequality. Income inequality, for example, is one aspect in which Thomas Piketty, for example, has been one remarkable scholar who has done a lot of things. So I'm not asking you to read all the work that has been done. It's humanly not possible. But then you have to pick up which particular scholar has done a lot of work, and just read few papers. At this point, just read few papers. A lot of it would not make sense to you, and believe me, a lot of things, when I read some papers, also doesn't make sense to me at the moment. So it's absolutely fine if a lot of things are not making sense to you, but you should always understand to review a literature, because it's like, this is a very basic research question, precise research question that the author is trying to address. But then you just kind of want to also understand what is the gap in that literature. So it's basically about you to highlight that gap, that you feel this is a gap and this is something I want to address. So it can be very, very simple and concise, and you just try to make it very precise and concise in that sense. So the gaps that excites you is also kind of very important to integrate in your PhD, for example, statement of purpose, especially because they kind of really want to look at that contribution you're trying to make. And then, as I mentioned before, the program fit. This obviously, by now should be kind of making some sense to you, that why, for example, a master's in economic development, or say masters in economics. Why not a master's in say policy, for example, public policy? Because economics, public policy, they're pretty much very you need to be very precise, that this is something I have done in the past. I have done this. This is, I think, I feel will build up on my past stuff, and this is the goal that I want to I have set for myself. So these are the stuffs which are important for me to do, and I feel this program would kind of make that progression. It would be a progression in my professional career. So yeah, the program fit is would kind of explain that. And then you should, at the end of it, have a very kind of short version of where you want to see yourself, because it's a very basic thing which is often asked in interviews or applications that you furnish, that where you want to see yourself. So I would say, don't just spend a lot of time thinking about the part of it, because it's like of course, they give you that benefit of doubt that by now you'd not know that where you want to see yourself, but you should have a kind of a well-defined or say broadly defined idea as to where you want to see yourself, or where you want to contribute going forward in the policy landscape. If you want to work, that you want to advise the government, you want to do something for the educational community, you want to follow the passion of your research, you want to just address this particular field that you're very passionate about, and you want to contribute in a very research environment. It can be anything, but you need to define it in that way. So this is something I felt kind of something you can, as of now, I can pause for a bit, and you can just read it with me, But this is something which I kind of came up with an introduction in my economic development program that I was furnishing my application to the London School of Economics, and I wanted to start off with a problem. So the problem is the first line you see. Problem in this world. It's not very unique, but I drafted it in a way which kind of uh, felt or which kind of drove home the point. So the way I kind of drafted it or worded it is basically the we can actually all read it together is this line that in the quest to attain modernization and usher in a multifaceted process of transformation, paradoxes have increasingly surrounded our world. So what I meant was we are all in this in this era of digitization or transformation, or technology is actually driving our actions every day. Like if we are at home, we are connected via internet, it's only because of technology. So it's like we are you know all very much driven by transformation, and we want to modernize our society, we want to upskill ourselves, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but what the subsequent line I mentioned is that this has somehow led to this illusion of us against the world, that we are always trying to compete against each other, and at times this competition kind of turns into very very suboptimal outcomes, as I mentioned. So in an economics perspective, this kind of has led to these disparities, and these disparities existed before, but has kind of it has intensified, and it is because of this illusion of us against the world. And there, after that line, as you see, I kind of integrated this growth and development. So my program was economic development. So the way I came about it was, again, if I just read it along, alongside with you, is that I started to question this era of transformation. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I just mentioned a statement. Then I went about and I stated that this has led to this. So, this us against the world concept. And then I mentioned at the end of it that as economies today climb this ladder of growth and development, what happens is this handful, few, uh, elite class people have climbed, along, while the rest, the public at large, comprising of which is again comprising of the majority of the population, are devoid of the benefits of economic growth. So it's not, again, it's not a problem which I'm like highlighting for the first time, but as you would understand, the way I kind of went about it is kind of giving the reader an idea that I have connected my thoughts. So one of my thought was this process of transformation. I linked it with this illusion of us against the world, and then I questioned that how this is kind of devoiding the benefits or the shared benefits of economic growth. So this is something, and believe me when I say this, when I drafted even the first few lines, I would say it took me good few weeks. It's like when I came up with this opening paragraph, I think I was already 4 weeks into drafting my SOP. So it's like, as I mentioned initially, the iterations that you have to make. So you have to absolutely take your time, and it has to be that your application deadline is 6 months and you're starting to write it now, and that is where actually you would actually have an edge. And I'm sure everyone who has cracked universities abroad or went on to do programs which is like fully funded or backed, is I think because they started very early, they started to draft things very early. When I initially started drafting my SOP, I couldn't even imagine that I could come up with any of these, because my thoughts were very much here and there, and I just drafted and drafted and drafted, integrated feedbacks, made people read, and that's where I feel like I was able to come up with a reasonably good introductory paragraph. And the way, again, this paragraph I have kind of ended is again with this application thing. So I feel this is a very standard way of ending your introductory paragraph, is that program fit I was talking about, and how it kind of aligns with your career goals. So you end it by saying my application for so and so at so and so place is a step in realizing my aspirations, and that will help me establish a meaningful career in the field of economic development and policy making. So this is where I feel, I mean, again, I'm very happy to share this draft and stuff with anyone who is interested to read and integrate some stuff which I have written. But yeah, this is where I feel, this is how I feel. Your statement should be very very you. It should speak about you. So it's never fall for this AI stuffs. I mean, of course, I'm not ever questioning the advent of AI or the benefits that AI has. It has, of course, a lot of benefits. It kind of gives you a brief idea of what is going on around in a particular area. That, for example, as researchers, we kind of want to have a very concise, for example, detail of a very long paper. So I'm not questioning the benefits of it. It gives you a concise summary of things. But then in this SOP thing, I would say completely stay off the artificial intelligence usage of it. And yeah, so this is something I felt would kind of give you some context. And the recommendation letters, again, as I which quickly talked about, that you should just stick to the timelines. You should have detailed conversations with the professors. And I actually also do have a draft recommendation letter, just a snapshot of it. So again, the key stuff here is that your professor should be very concise, very clear, that this is what my student demonstrates. Should have some evidence that you have done this work on this. Your undergraduate thesis has been on this. It was a very unique dissertation. He or she has consistently ranked among the top 5% students. So this kind of also gives an edge in your application. And talking about your focus on your subject, and your intellectual, not only your intellectual bandwidth, but also your humility, curiosity, your resilience. All these things are like traits of successful people who have cracked PhD applications in all these universities. So this is something, again, which you need to have conversations with your professors, your supervisors. But I stress always that you should have these conversations very, 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 very early. Yeah. And then this is something of again a very, very kind of a draft a recommendation letter. So always remember, whenever you are having this conversation with your supervisor, you should always make sure that every recommendation letter, again, this is very obvious, but should have this letterhead in which they write. So it can be for any funding applications you're furnishing your application stuff. But yeah, broadly, this is what your professors end up writing. That they're supporting your application to this. You have received this admission to this, and so and so. It's like a lot of generic stuff, but then they have to be very much speaking about you, because this recommendation is all about you. It's not about the college that you're coming from or the reputation of the college, because it's already a very good college, and the application team knows that. So the entire recommendation letter has to speak about your professional achievements or your achievements in the confines of your university learning. So yeah, I just had this. Again, I'm happy to share this and won't like to speak more about this, but this is how kind of it should be very lengthy. It shouldn't be confined to one page. You can have like 2-page recommendation, but obviously don't go beyond 3-4 pages. But yeah, it can be very many paragraphs. It can be 4 paragraphs, but has to have that substance in there, that this is something you have done. You should never shy away from asking your supervisor to mention your rank, your academic credentials or achievements, because that, I think, really stands out in your application. And then next, I mean, the CV, which is, again, by now you many of you would have an idea that speaks about your educational background and your professional backgrounds, and the stuff which I initially mentioned, that you have all these things in your CV. And this is something also they want you to upload in almost all the applications, if not all. I don't remember exactly in my master's whether, I think I did upload my CV, but in some applications it's a very optional thing. But always do have a CV, because you are anyways building up on it in the coming days. So, and again, these are very generic stuff, but this is like the application portals. You need to have that research, maintain kind of some kind of an Excel sheet, that this is a university you're applying, this is the course you're applying, this is the deadline, this is the funding deadline. That's, again, makes things easier for you. So all these universities, because these are some universities which I apply towards, a lot of the funding deadlines are like December to February. You'd of course want to have some funding applications through. So for every fall, the applications, if I'm not wrong, opens around September, October, during that time. And you should always have your deadlines set. So by December, most of the funding deadline closes. So you should be able to submit an application by December. If the application opens in September, so you've got just 2-3 months to just proofread your material. So never start an SOP once the application window opens, because as I mentioned, you want to get this, and you have the time. You have to take out some time in your final years of your undergraduate degrees, or your master's degrees, and just keep on building on your stuff. Because if you start like a bit early, you have this luxury of working on it at your own pace. So I think that is why it is important to have this timeline thing ready. And then lastly, I think just some pre-submission stuff, have this all of things concise and ready and stuff, and just make sure you have a mentor, your supervisor, who reviews your entire application, or it can be your friend, your colleague, or anyone. And some of the stuff which you should avoid is, again, as I mentioned, the generic sound of an SOP. Don't overclaim stuff that I'm revolutionary. I'm kind of bringing a revolution in this field and stuff, because even people in say my field who have won Nobel prizes or the Nobel laureates, they also never claim that this is something of a very very unique thing that we have done. So it's like they have just contributed to this field. You can keep it confined to that. And then make sure, yeah, just the grammatical stuff, you cross check that, you have your deadlines, and make sure you have customized your SOP. So it can be that you want to broaden your applications, so you can have 10 universities are applying to. So never make it very generic. Obviously a lot of content will be the same, but then make sure there are, in the introductory paragraph, a few lines, few sentences are very different. So I think that is something you need to keep in mind. And of course, the important part about funding. This is something which I mentioned, especially for a PhD, you need to have these funding options. It can be, I mean, as Prashant Bhai also, I mean, he has got this Chevening scholarship. So he's something, I mean, he has got some, obviously, a lot of information on this, and he's the right person for everyone to kind of guide through in this Chevening scholarship application. So a lot of these schemes and programs also you'd find. So one of them, which I came across, where there's INLAC scholarships, the Tata Trust scholarship. There is also another scholarship which is very, again, confined to few universities, but the Nehru Trust scholarships and stuff, which you would find. If you kind of want to extend your funding applications to beyond what university provides. So so these are you also kind of need to keep this in mind, that there are a lot of scholarships in India which have like a lot of these prerequisites. So you need to belong to this community, you need to belong to this gender, for example, and these are very very good steps that the government or the organizations have taken, because to kind of make everyone inclusive. I think these kind of opportunities are very very important. And I think, if a not lot of opportunities have come up, but I think some of them are still there, right there for you to apply. And just email people really early, email people from the funding organizations, that can you share some bit of information, and can we have some discussions, and they'll be very much approachable, for sure. And so always keep in mind the finance aspect of your applications also. And then, of course, once you get an offer, this is like for the later part of your application journey, is that you go about all these checklists and stuff that you have. But this is, again, quite pretty much late into your application, when you're like done with your off. You receive an offer, you receive your funding, some moderate funding here and there. And so I think this is something which is really important. And always remember, the place, for example, I mean, the platform that where we are hosting this session is this Savitri Phule's lesson, for example. You must have all read and come across his life, and the way it has been documented so well across all platforms. Is that while he always stressed about the fact that you're just not earning a degree, but as Prashant Bhai was also mentioning, that it kind of is a transformative journey in your life, that you want to pursue something, you want to pursue it with a purpose. So never pursue something which has got no purpose. You have to have that purpose in your mind. And it's not about just you earning a degree, but you're kind of joining this legacy of world class intellectual pursuits, and you are with some kind of social change that you're driven towards. So I think that is something which is very important. So I'm anyways very happy to take questions, but just to note down, have my email and stuff. I'm happy to share this across to Prashant Bhai, and he can circulate it with anyone who is interested for any feedback. But broadly, that would be that would be my long thing. And sorry if I've just overstretched a bit, but happy to take questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arijit Bhai. It was really thorough and the detailed presentation, which was really helpful for all of us. Now I would move to questions. Many of you must have questions, so you can ask question in Hindi, maybe Marathi, even if you are not comfortable in Hindi English, and you can anyway ask in the English. But before that, I would just like to add one thing. कि और आई विल शिफ्ट इनटू हिंदू एज वेल। देखो यार, ये प्रोसेस बड़ा लंबा है। आई मीन मैंने पूरी जर्नी में देखा है। आई वाज प्रिपेयरिंग फ्रॉम 2023, जब मैं अपना मास्टर्स सेकंड मास्टर्स कर रहा था। सेकंड मास्टर्स के बिगिनिंग में मैंने सोचा था कि मैं जाऊँगा करूँगा ये सब। लास्ट ईयर था, आते आते मैंने प्रिपरेशन शुरू कर दिया। तब से लेके फर्स्ट चेवनिंग ने मेरे को पहले इसमें रिजेक्ट कर दिया था। और फिर पूरा टाइम हम लोग सिर्फ राइटिंग कर रहे थे कि कैसे एसओपी लिखना है, कैसे यूनिवर्सिटी के एसओपीस है, सीवी कैसे प्रिपेयर करना है। फिर मेरे को क्या करना है इन लाइक मैं क्यों जाना चाहता हूँ। मैंने सिर्फ कोई गया है, जैसे प्रशांत भाई गए हैं तो भाई अब देख के बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है, लंदन में कहीं पे लंदन आए गए, यहाँ पे फ़ोटो निकाल दिया तो बस मेरे को भी जाना है। नॉट लाइक दैट। तो वो फैसिनेशन पूरा जो है वो हटा के फिर आपको एक प्रैक्टिकली सोचना पड़ता है कि वाई यू आर लुकिंग फॉर पर्टिकुलर यूनिवर्सिटी, पर्टिकुलर कॉलेज, पर्टिकुलर कोई भी चीज़ है। तो फैसिनेशन अगर आप में अभी है वो, या फिर ज़्यादा क्यूरियसिटी है तो वो ठीक ही है, उसका एक महत्व है। वो इनिशियली आपको किसी भी जर्नी में ड्रैग करने के लिए हेल्पफुल रहता है, इंस्पायर करने के लिए हेल्पफुल रहता है। लेकिन इन रियलिटी क्यों करना है, किस लिए करना है, क्या पर्पज़ है, वो सारी चीज़ें बहुत ज़रूरी है। और जैसे अरिजीत भाई ने कहा कि डेडलाइन के टाइम पे बैठ के शुरू मत करो, उसका सिंपल रीज़न ये भी है कि देखो ये पूरा प्रोसेस है वो पर्सपेक्टिव बिल्डिंग का प्रोसेस है। क्योंकि आप ज़रूरी नहीं कि आपको सारी क्लैरिटी अभी हो, लेकिन जैसे जैसे आप प्रोसेस में जाओगे वैसे वैसे आपको एक क्लैरिटी आएगा कि यार दिस इज़ व्हाट आई वांट टू डू। जैसे कि चेवनिंग का एप्लीकेशन प्रिपेयर करते हुए मेरे को पता चला कि यार मैं मॉडर्न स्लेवरी, बॉन्डेड लेबर्स और इसको बहुत एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल लेंस से काम कर सकता हूँ। तो जितना लॉन्ग टर्म में आप प्रिपरेशन करते रहोगे, जैसे कम से कम आप 2-2.5 महीने अगर इसके साथ इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो, मतलब अरिजीत भाई ने 6 मंथ बोला है, तो 6 मंथ से भी अगर आप प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो तो, क्योंकि एसओपी ऐसी चीज़ है ना कि कहीं पे मैं नहा रहा हूँ और मेरे दिमाग में कुछ थॉट आ रहा है एंड देन आई एम गोइंग बैक एंड हाँ यार ये लिख सकता हूँ। या किसी दोस्त के साथ कुछ बात कर रहा हूँ, कुछ थॉट आ रहा है, मैं आई एम गोइंग बैक एंड आई एम राइटिंग अबाउट इट। सो ये पर्सपेक्टिव बिल्डिंग भी है एक तरफ से। तो ये सब कोई ऐसी चीज़ नहीं कि सर मेरे को बहुत मज़ा आता है रिसर्च करने और इसलिए मेरे को आप ले लो और मैं यहाँ से आता हूँ ऐसे आता हूँ और मैंने ये किया। नो, यू हैव टू राइट प्रॉपरली, यू नो। ठीक है, लेट्स गो टू क्वेश्चंस नाउ। आई थिंक या सुभद्रा दास।
Uh, Hello, very good evening, sir. Am I audible?
यस यस यू आर, यू आर।
Firstly, I would like to thank the organizing team for taking such an initiative for all the students. And Arijit sir, it was an honor to hear from you about the experiences. So I have two questions. Firstly, uh, regarding the recommendation letter. So, are we supposed to only take it from the professors of our own institute from where we belong to, or we can also ask the professor with whom we have made a research paper or we have made internships somewhere? So, this is the first question. And the second one is, what are the uh, series of softwares or data analysis programs we need to actually pursue just for economic background, just to have a strong grip about data analysis and handling a long group of data. So these are the two questions.
Okay. So on your first question, Subrata, actually, on the recommendation letters, like again, Prashant Bhai can kind of add to it, but I would suggest that I mean professors in the college that you are in are like the main point of reference because they have seen you grow throughout this 3 4 years whatever you're in college, so they'll be able to kind of explain things a better in your recommendation letter. But that is not to say that professors who have you have, for example, come up with any research paper with a particular professor in any other universities. Of course, it means that you have spent substantial amount of time, interacting with him, and he or she knows about, what contribution you have made. So it's obviously like, that's something very, very much fine for you to add that reference to your application. But mostly, if you've seen all, applications at this state, is that whether you're the place you have pursued an undergraduate, or you're applying for a master's, or a place you have pursued a master's, you're applying for a PhD, it has to be the super professors from your own university, like, where you have pursued these degrees. But as a third reference, or as a secondary reference, you can always add professors whom you have worked with. And secondly, on this analysis stuff, so I mean, of course, starting with advanced Excel is, I think, very important, very preliminary in economic analysis. But then it should always build up to Stata. So Stata, for example, is a statistical software a lot widely used in economics. But the only drag about using Stata is it's a paid software. Your institute should have subscription to that
Right.
software. But on the contrary, you have another alternative, which is the R's software package, which is free again. So make sure, like, even if you don't, you don't enjoy working with R's. For example, I don't enjoy a lot working with R, but there are these free online, courses you can take something. I mean, there's some platforms where you can enroll, like, even if it's for 100 rupees or 200 rupees, you can take some courses. So I used to take them a lot, which Udemy, for example, provides a lot of these courses. So make sure, yeah, Stata R, Python is again kind of very, very kind of advanced stuff, but yeah, advanced Excel, Power BI, but Stata R is like mostly very much applicable to and but Prashant, if you'd like to add on something on the recommendation, I mean, yeah.
On that one, it also depends on the university and the scholarship that you're applying for. For example, because Arijit Bhai is from the economics field, he know much better for the economics, But I can talk for a scholarship. Like scholarship always have, the kind of scholarship it is that asks for a different kind of references. For example, if you go for a Commonwealth scholarship, there will be always, if you have worked somewhere, there is professional reference, there is academic reference. For university, generally academic reference is sufficient, which is essential. And also, you think from a perspective that, the person who has you work with, that only person can comment about your ability and your work. So that's pretty much simple. But for example, in Chevening, if you have worked with even in some of the organization, maybe your manager or maybe your HR can also comment on your abilities as a work experience and how you're taking leadership. Because for example, Chevening is more about leadership network and you're making impact and being leader, change maker. So all this stuff can help you there. But I would again say, like, all of my references were professors, so not work, because work has a lot of politics in all this. But professors, always good, so you can go for good. Yeah, but you don't, because sometimes references are anonymous and you are not sure what is going to hit you back. So yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Who has the next question? I think Subhadra is done. Anybody has question? Somebody has asked question in the message. Should a recommendation letter be taken from the teaching professor? Okay, same thing. If someone
Yeah.
studies in very ordinary, lesser known college, are recommendation letter written by professor from that college considered valid and acceptable? Yeah, Arish bhai.
Yeah, I think that's very much the stuff that we were talking about. So of course, like the recommendation letters should come from the college that you are pursuing your degrees. And yeah, no problem about lesser known college or ordinary college. I mean, there's no such classification that you have. So any professors who writes from any credible organizations or universities are completely considered acceptable and valid. So there shouldn't be any issue, any issue in there.
Sometimes the problem that we face, because many many of the ordinary colleges. For example, I have encountered these issues when I studied my bachelor's in a
Yeah.
very local college, and the professor himself or herself was not aware that what is recommendation letter, how to write it, and all this stuff. And then I had to write, tell them, teach them, and all this
Mhm.
stuff was happening. And sometimes
Yeah.
we ourselves are struggling with doing all this SOP and all in this. So it's always better for in that case. It's always better that you reach out to, you select your professor that this person can help me in
Mm.
writing, giving my recommendation letter, and you reach out them
Mm.
very earlier, because many of my
Yeah.
friends had a very bad experiences that professors, especially in the tier 2 tier 3 cities, or like especially in these lesser known colleges, they themselves are not aware, and so that they are not serious many of the time, and many of the professors miss the deadlines, and
Mm.
the
Right.
student was waiting. And sometimes what happens, because in many of the university or scholarship portals, you first write the name of professor and then there is a
Mm.
deadline. So now
Correct. Correct.
changing the name of professor or name of your referee, it becomes very difficult. Now you have to write mail, or like you have to write again to
Yeah.
university or scholarship team and tell them, okay, my professor is this. So it becomes very
Mm.
difficult. So always choose trustworthy person, and second, always choose a person who can speak on your behalf, and obviously a positive things, because
Mm.
critical thing also can work, but it should not hit your application, because sometimes
Yeah.
you had a bad chemistry with the professor and you feel okay, you give it and they hit you back. Okay, open university
Yeah.
like YCMOU, IGNU can be eligible for PhD abroad. Arjit bhai.
Uh, Again, I think Jay, I probably will be giving a very generic answer, but Prashant bhai might be having more to add. But for example, I can talk about Cambridge. So Cambridge, uh, I think so. For example, they have a list. So for example, when you open your application, so where you have done your masters and stuff, they have a like your top down list. So if your college doesn't feature in there, they also have something called others, other universities. So I think because I have not come across this thing of whether open universities are eligible, but for Cambridge I would say I think it is very acceptable. But the only thing you need to do is if you feel like this UGC accepted colleges is something you are not affiliated with at the moment, so it's better kind of, I mean, open universities again are obviously UGC stuff, but it's again an open learning course and stuff. So it's like better kind of to always reach out to these admissions team, because they would be kind of, because you need to mention the college name, or whether it is affiliated to you, which ultimately which awarding body is awarding you the degree. For example, in Xavier's, when I applied, so when I applied to LSE, St Xavier's interestingly doesn't feature in the LSE's the overall list of colleges that you have. So they just have St Xavier's College. So we obviously assume that it can be St Xavier's Mumbai. So they don't have anything St Xavier's Calcutta there in the application. So I mentioned in the others tab that this is St Xavier's College Calcutta, and while mentioning that, they again open a new set of questions for you, which is like which ultimately authority awarded you the degree. So for us, it was the University of Calcutta, because St Xavier's, even if it's an autonomous college, but the award ultimately came from the University of Calcutta. So there were some confusions back in there which I faced, and what I did was, like, I wrote to the applications team. They have a admissions query team, and they were like, yeah, it's fine, you can mention this, you can mention that. What they really need is the degree certificate, and for any validity checks and stuff. But unless Prashant bhai wants to add anything, I don't see this is like open university degrees kind of I mean, won't be any eligibility factor in there. But I don't see, for Cambridge at least, I think they would be very much accepting these open university
Yeah,
degrees.
one thing that for sure, like when you are coming from an open university, it's always, because sometimes we are very excited to apply for abroad and all this stuff, but also because I did my bachelor's even regular, but still when I did my master's, then I realized I was lacking heavily everything that needs in academic field.
Mm.
I was not aware about how to write research proposal. I was even not aware about the biggest research platform. Like I was not aware of JSTOR, because you see,
Mm.
even I came to city, I was not given any kind of exposure that is required for any ordinary
Mm.
student. People here who are doing their bachelor, they are publishing their bachelor thesis as a book, and we were never thought of like the research something like this. And you write proposal, you write articles, and you present, you do theory, you do ethnography and all this stuff. So it's always important, if you really think, because it's a part of introspection, or thinking about yourself, that at this moment, why do you want to go for PhD, or at this moment, do you really think that you need to get some other skills that you required for going in a next mile in your life. So I always say that if you have not done one professional degree in properly in India somewhere, so choose some good institution. Like for example, I did in Azim Prem University. Maybe you can go to Ashoka, maybe you can go to JNU or somewhere. Do 1 or 2 years full time degree, which is a very professional, which will allow you to. And also it's about perspective shaping. You cannot just shape perspective by sitting at home. I mean, you cannot just shape your perspective in by just reading books. It's a larger, you're part of diversity. You're talking to students, you're talking to professors, you're developing, your own understanding of certain issues, you're building your own interests, which is very required. And so that, I would always say that if you're not done one professional degree, think for, in India somewhere in the good university and target that. And if you get professional degree into abroad also, go for it. Because even see, even I'm doing my masters, I still feel, this is my second masters. I'm still thinking, oh, I have to go into economics and I have to do one master there and then I'll go for PhD. So it's always a doubt, because doing PhD itself is a larger task. You are engaging yourself for a 3 to 4 years. There is a lot of brain drain. Then you don't understand. Are you really interested in this topic or not? Also, your knowledge, what kind of knowledge you're producing, and is it going to helpful for society and not? The large funding that people are spending on you. So we have to think all of this stuff. So that's why I believe it's not about what is your previous university, but it's definitely matters that are you properly trained for going into a particular field at this moment. That's a real question. Somebody has asked question. It okay? Thank you, Sonali. Thank you for. Anybody has any question?
This is
WES.
one question on W. What exactly
What is
is this
WES?
W?
Okay, for now we'll go to Sumed's question. Hi Sumed, you can ask question. Then you write about what is WS for now. Yeah, Sumed. Hi Sumed, are you there?
Yes, yes. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for the session. And I have like 4 to 5 questions from my side because I'm currently preparing for my PhD process. So my first question is I have been selected for University of Chicago in 2023, and because of the funding issue, I couldn't make it. And is it okay to add this part in the SOP? Because I am a little bit confused that this will be present a negative or positive impression in front of the professor or the admission committee. And second is it okay to mention the funding part in the SOP, like requesting for the scholarship or funding part? And also there is one more thing. While like working on the SOP, is it okay to add the professor's name and the their research background, and like you are interested in their research and also inspired from their research and work too? And also um, how much time of like a gap in between the follow-up email? Because I have emailed like many professors, but I couldn't get a response from them. Like I have been waited for like 15 days, but I couldn't get their response. So is it okay to like follow up, give reply to them for at least 1 week or 2 week? So yeah.
Yeah, Sumit, I think those are brilliant points actually. So on the funding side of things, I would say that be just very, very. You don't really need to worry that whether you have not mentioned. I mean, whether mentioning about funding in your SOP is kind of some of a demerit, because you absolutely have to be clear that doing a PhD without a funding is really difficult. And since you have got an offer from Chicago, so you can absolutely, so you are planning to apply to other universities, right, in your
Yes.
PhD? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, it's absolutely fine to if you want to say, like, because the SOP is kind of very word specific and stuff like that. So if you feel somewhere in between some lines and stuff, you can mention this, the fact that you have received this funding and I mean, you received this offer from Chicago and you couldn't do this because of funding stuff, issue stuff. They do have this additional information, tab in every application form. So I would strongly suggest you to mention this, because first of all, it's a advantage for the application. I mean, you stand an edge because you have received a PhD offer from Chicago University, and never think that you were not good enough. That's the reason you didn't receive funding. Because I know the process of funding. It's like a lot of outstanding, candidates miss out on any partial funding because the funding in every department is very tight. Like, for example, in Cambridge, the department I am in, like, they offer just 3 4 fully funded, PhD students. So rest all of it are, and all of them are encouraged, like, to go for external funding. So I mentioned about Tata trusts or Nehru trusts and stuff like that. So first of all, widen your choices. So never just remain confident that university will figure a package for you out there, because it's very difficult. I mean, the funding is like every department struggles to kind of give full funding to all students. It's not possible, to be honest. So you can so either of two things. So to your first question, you can mention the funding stuff in your SOP, but funding has got separate applications that you have to furnish. So for example, Cambridge, they have a separate funding, statement that you need to furnish. So it has to be completely different from your statement of purpose. So in some part of your SOP, which I did, I like smartly played with it. In SOP, for few lines, I did mention that funding is something I'm strongly looking at. And because again, it's very obvious, because for any application committee or your supervisor which you have proposed, who will ultimately lead all your application stuff, he or she knows that you need a funding. So it's not like something you're mentioning which is going to trouble them. It's a very obvious thing. You're in fact, you should stress more on it in any additional information, tab that they have. So in an additional information section, they do mention that, is there any other part of your story that you want to say, which you have not mentioned in your other documents. So funding is again very non-negotiable. You have to push through it. Whether you mention it in SOP, you decide for yourself, because there are other stuffs you want to stress about. Because first, getting an offer is important, then obviously funding comes with it. But funding is again very kind of interlinked. So state as much as you want in the additional information stuff. And for example, universities like Cambridge, LSE, they do have separate letters that you have to send for funding, especially. And for external, I mean, Prashant Bhai would know about chevening and stuff, but for external, scholarships which I provided, so I competed for the Nehru Trust scholarships and other scholarships a bit. So in there, I regularly kind of chased through emails, like emails and stuff, as you mentioned, like you are reaching out to a professor, you're reaching out to any funding external organizations. See, these are people actually who are extremely busy, so it's very expected that they won't get back to you within 4 5 days or 7 days. So just keep emailing them. I mean, that's the only way out. So I, for example, would do every follow-up email in 4 days or 5 days. And they, when they ultimately write to you, they will come with that thing that apologies. It's like, you do understand, like they're like receiving emails, like, I know my supervisor right now, she receives, like, she gets back to me even if we are on the same office side by side, and she's like gets back to me over email like in 3 4 days, because she's like so caught up with all the stuff that she keeps on receiving. So in a day, probably they'll be receiving like 30 40 50 emails, who knows, like, so just keep pushing. Like, there is no other way out, right? You either you stop or you just keep pushing. So even if it's 5 days, 6 days, doesn't matter. So just keep doing it. You
Okay.
shouldn't feel like 5 days and stuff is less or whatever. So just keep writing.
Okay.
And yeah, in the SOP professor name, I think you can mention, partly you can mention, this is the supervisor I'm interested with working and stuff like that. So that's obviously fine, but you need to craft it accordingly, that why you're mentioning his name and what's the motivation behind that. So yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Okay.
in
And
my case
yeah.
also, like, sorry, Sumit. So you can actually write, a weekly mail, because what I used to do, I used to, schedule a mail. So I'll schedule a mail on Saturday only, so
Yes.
that
Yes.
Monday, if I don't, because it's very expected that they will not receive, reply you back on the Saturday and Sunday. So if you don't receive by Friday, just schedule a mail on for Monday. It automatically goes.
Okay.
Otherwise, you forget. I was
Okay.
writing my PhD application for Edinburgh, and I was looking for Professor Hugo Goring, and he used to never, so I used to write weekly mails, and so that's how he replied. So
Okay.
do it
Okay.
weekly. Yeah.
Sure. 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 Noted. And also, I wanted to add one more thing. Like you have been discussed about the YCMOU Open University. So I have also completed my graduation from Open University, Nashik, and then after I got admission in Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. And because of the degree like pursued last education, so it was from TISS Mumbai. So the my graduation degree validates the TISS degree. So that's how I got the opportunity from the University of Chicago. And also I have received a transcript from YCMU. So I think it is authentic degree, and it's a validable degree in US as well as I think other countries too. So yeah.
But I think Sumit, on that, Prashant Bhai's reply was actually very on point, because he mentioned that it is very important for any PhD applications that you do a full fledged degree from a good institute, like it
Yes.
can be Azim Premji, it can be Ashoka, it can be Jindal, or whenever. So I think that always helps. So I think he was
Yes.
very blunt, and it's very honest. I mean, it's very valid point. You
Yes.
have to do something for you to kind of cross that minimum thing, that okay, this guy has come from this college. So so that's, I think, is the harsh reality of actually applications abroad, that they see the college name and stuff. But yeah, that was a very valid point
I
actually.
really think that I mean, why I think that, because it's about academic training. I mean, it's all about shaping your
Yes.
perspective, and I do believe that without that environment, without that rigorous academic environment, training, regular lectures, writing assignments, because you write around. See, imagine, like I write around 4 assignments for per subject in one semester. I have 4 subjects now, so I am writing 16 assignments in 4 months, and 16 assignments, which is around, each subject crosses around total 10,000 words, or like 5,000 words assignment. So I am writing around 20,000 words, just assignments of, one semester, and so that I am doing 4 semester now. Then I am doing group works, I am doing, thinking, I am improving my language. uh, by doing this, I am reading now. You see, like, I don't think for YCMM people are reading for, I- improving their, perspectives about their, narrowing down their field work. No, people are, even in master's degree, we do a rigorous, we prepare our research proposal. Now for that you have to read a lot. You're going through a lot of things, you're reading books, you're everything, bringing everything together, you're sharpening your research. Now imagine that
Yes.
you don't have this exposure and you're directly applying for any university. I see a very less probability that, you're gonna get
Correct,
it,
correct.
Yes.
because writing SOP, even for, imagine you, for Cambridge you're writing your MPhil program. There was MPhil program, I was rejected even after doing this degree, because, there are lots of nuances that works, and that can only come through a rigorous academic training in a particular discipline. That's why you say, when I refer myself as a sociologist, or somebody refer themselves as an economist, why they refer, not because they have done just degree, like there is a training behind that, and I believe that training is very important. Brand doesn't matter
Yes.
one point of time, your skill
Exactly.
speaks up,
Yeah.
but then,
Yeah.
speak your skills for a brand also matters. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yes. Anybody has any question? We have 10 minutes now, and last few questions we can take. Somebody has raised their hand. But I really be a brutal, honest, because I know uh, how YCMU and all this happens. It's just an exam,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
clarify, clear exam. Anybody has any question?
Question, it's actually very valid. I mean, the stuff that you mentioned, unless you come from that background, it will be like very difficult for you to, like, put, as I mentioned, writing all this stuff is like really, I mean, it trains your mind, and you have to, like, really come from that rigorous, academic training atmosphere.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
writing 2,000 word assignment, and that too
yeah,
in a,
yeah.
proper theoretical academic, it drains your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody has any question? Last few thoughts.
So Prashant, I think someone has just mentioned something about WES and just given a
No,
link.
not. I'm not sure what is it. Like, they have shared the link.
Yeah, no idea actually.
Hello, myself Anupam Borkar. Actually, I am also pursuing PhD. So I am also confused about. Actually, I'm doing PhD in Pune. So one is Savitribai Phule Pune University, and another is Symbiosis International University. So I have a choice of both. So uh, I'm I'm in a dilemma that which PhD to go ahead with. So basically, the in the Pune University, it is more traditional approach, whereas in Symbiosis it is more rigorous and industrial connected. But at the same time, there is less flexibility. But what I found, we have to meet the deadlines and a lot of coursework. So what would you suggest?
So
And
Anupam,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, sorry,
and
you wanted.
also that I'm what is what is what is the role of since you are doing PhD, how much your supervisor matters and your guide's role in your PhD? Because in one place my guide is uh, s- has a background in the area which I'm pursuing my PhD, and other place the guide do not have that expertise, but they are very supportive. So I have a lot of confusion.
Yeah, no, Anupam. Actually, quickly on the guide stuff. I mean, ultimately, I would say of whatever experience I have had, I'm just the months that I have been in Cambridge with my PhD. I think guide actually is the most important part of your PhD, because I was very clear when I was applying for my PhD. I did a rigorous research on Cambridge University as to where, first of all, my research interest lies. So you need to filter the entire academic faculty into your research interests. So this actually relates to the first question also you asked. So depends on these two institutes you are wanting to pursue your PhD. Depends that your research interest better aligns to which professor's line of work, and
Okay.
which professor is willing to kind of take you under him or her and guide you through the entire PhD years. So you should first look at the matching of your professor's work with your proposed work, because ultimately PhD is the outcomes of it is all shaped by the nature of your, I mean, the relations you have with your supervisor. And by relation I mean how much of personal time he or she is investing on you, how much he or she, because normally in Cambridge you had to I mean kind of come up with a supervisor name before you apply a PhD. So in your application process, you have to be very clear that this is the PhD supervisor I'm willing to work under, and then you have an interview call scheduled with him or her, where she kind of understands or he understands what's your line of research, and then you kind of hit a common point that you feel she's a good guide for you, she feels you are a good PhD student under you. So I think both of the questions are very much interlinked, and because I think ultimately depends on the conversations you have with your mentor or your supervisor, because she is ultimately going to shape your entire research in the next 3 or 4 years, because that is, I think, very, very important, and you need to have find that right person, right guide, if that makes sense.
And I just also want to ask how much is this in the scope of interdisciplinary research in your place, or is it very rigorous or specific to the particular field? For example, the economics. A lot of interdisciplinary research is also going on, or it
Yes,
is
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, all social science fields that you see, economics included, they're all very interdisciplinary. So, for example, there are colleagues of mine, I'll just give you an example. There are a few colleagues of mine who are doing research in law and economics. So, they're wanting to have a link on law, economics. Someone is doing on mining and economics. So it's like very, very vast. I mean, again, this is something which is very, I don't know if I should say this, but there is a particular faculty member in our department who does research on economics of religion. Like, just imagine, the amount of research, I mean, interdisciplinary stuff they do. So it's like very interdisciplinary. So, economics, first of all, is always linked with environment. It's linked with law. It's linked with, you know, regional economics, and a lot of interdisciplinary stuff which is happening. So yeah, very much
Exactly. I have just
interdisciplinary.
to add over this because nowadays, these boundaries of disciplinary boundaries are blurred now, literally. You come
Yes.
here, we are here, people in anthropology, they are doing the engineering anthropology. Can you imagine the
Yeah.
anthropologist who is talking about engineering? Can you imagine the anthropology of energy? So, there are lots of things, and people are doing different stuff in the world. Everything is required, but one thing for sure, whenever while doing anything disciplinary, so you have to be part of at least one discipline, which your discipline is, one discipline of yours should
Yeah.
be the dominant part of your, whole work. For example, I come from the sociology and anthropology. So now, what I do is I consider myself an anthropologist of social movement. So I do whole of my work in the social movement, then anthropology of labor. So I do these two things only. Beyond that, I don't enter into a lot of things. So there are so many things to manage. So what is your main field that matters? If you are working on the economics, then now you apply your economic understanding to many other different things to understand. For example, religion is the subject to be studied, but it is from economic lens. Sociology doesn't study religion, but they are studying from a different lens. Anthropologists also study. Uh, so many things are happening in the world actually. If you come to a different university, you realize that we never thought that this kind of things exist. Yeah.
Yeah, just a last point. Very thankful to both Arijit and uh, SRC for organizing such a wonderful session. I'm very thankful.
Yeah, yeah. Welcome.
So thank you.
Um, yes, I think we have last 2 minutes. Thank you, Arijit Bhai, for joining us. It was really nice to talk to you also, and I think WA is a third party validation process, graduation master degree after validation from WS. I don't think it's much, matters in our case. We never thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we have last 1 minute, and thank you, Arijit Bhai. Thank you all of you for joining, and please apply for whichever field you want to go for, whichever university. Always reach out to SRC whenever you need anything. We're here to support you.